of Advent themed imagines, unsurprisingly, given it is Advent. This evening, I thought that we would play around with the O Antiphons, which are these sort of amazing poems or prayers, ancient ones written way back in the early church, all around sort of desire and longing, and articulating that to the God who enters into the, the fray, the mess, the rich reality that is life. And I suppose for me, there's something about when we engage with the incarnation, this sense of a God who took on flesh or matter, that's entering into the reality as it is, not as we might like it to be. And now that seems even more kind of important to remember, that it's not like God waits until a pandemic is over, for example, and then enters into reality and, I don't know, sorts it out, or even enters into the pandemic and sorts it out, but rather that this is a God who is involved in precisely the reality that is as it is, namely this kind of bizarre year of 2020, and yet is kind of working within that for good and for life. Yeah, and so for me, there's something about these poems, these O Antiphons, which are engaging with what is it that I desire? Who is the God that I need in this reality that I'm in? Who is the God that we might need in this reality that we're in today? But that desire is not for a God that will remove us from the situation necessarily, not desires which kind of distract us from what's going on, but rather desires which help us to remain wholeheartedly engaged in the reality that's going on, which I think is harder. Certainly for me, it's harder. I'd love to have a God who came and kind of sorted the whole thing out, and we're all back in ecological balance, and humanity's loving and generous and caring. But there's something kind of important about what are my desires given what's going on right now. And for me, that the kind of digging down a little bit into those desires can be really fruitful. I'm often surprised at what my underlying desires are. So I'm just going to share screen. A couple of years ago, actually, I came across Malcolm Guite or Guite. We thought we might do a straw poll as to how on earth you pronounce his name. I'm afraid I don't know. Probably somebody in the room does, but he's a poet and a theologian, I think, but certainly a poet. And he's written these O Antiphons, or his own versions of them. So this is one of the versions, O Wisdom, or O Sapientia in Latin. So I thought I'd just read this to begin with. I cannot think unless I have been thought, nor can I speak unless I have been spoken. I cannot teach except as I am taught, or break the bread except as I am broken. O mind behind the mind through which I seek. O light within the light by which I see. O word beneath the words with which I speak. O founding, unfound wisdom finding me. O sounding song whose depth is sounding me. O memory of time reminding me. My ground of being always grounding me. My maker's bounding line defining me. Come, hidden wisdom, come with all you bring. Come to me now, disguised as everything. So Malcolm has kind of played around a little bit with the formula of these ancient poems. They tend to have a kind of O, and then you have a name or an image of God. So we've got a whole load here. O mind behind the mind through which I seek. Light within the light, word beneath the words. Founding, unfound wisdom. These are all sort of images and names for God that seemingly resonate with the poet. So there's O, and then a name or a description of God. And then you who, which isn't specifically in this, but you who, and a description of the action of that God, or the way of being of that God. And then come, and a request. So, oh God, you who are totally enmeshed in the reality of this pandemic world, come and help us to remain open-hearted and present, for example, might be something that's, I guess, going on for me at the moment. So what I thought that we would do this evening, and it may be that you want a piece of paper to kind of scroll things on, but it doesn't matter if you don't have one, you can just sort of play around with it in your mind. But was to tune in a little bit to the reality as it is in our experience, and the God who we might need or desire to enter into that reality, and what we might be asking for from that God. Yeah. So again, maybe just settling back into your posture from earlier, something that helps you to be sort of present and attentive for a little while. And again, maybe closing your eyes or picking a point to focus on, whatever is more helpful. Maybe for a minute, just tuning in again to your breath, this breath that is breathing in you, almost without you doing anything at all. You might even be able to also notice the sensation of your heartbeat. Again, that kind of lifeblood sustaining you. Maybe at the beginning of this time of meditation, prayer, contemplation, we can ask for a gift or a grace. And maybe you can put this into your own words, but asking for a sense of God revealing God's self to us, God offering images that may be helpful and showing us those deep desires that help us to remain lovingly and boldly engaged with life as it is. So to begin with, I'd just like you to sort of tune into your sphere of the world. So it might be your local place of living, working, your communities, but it also might be the areas of the world that you're particularly paying attention to through the news or because family members live there. So you don't need to be physically in the place, but tuning into the parts of the world that are your kind of sphere of experience. And just noticing what is the world, your world, like at the moment. What are you noticing? people, places, themes. Might be that you're more in tune with the sort of people, the communities of people that you know and relate to. It might be that you're more in tune with the communities of non-human kin, other creatures, plants, landscapes. But how is the world appearing to you at the moment? And what are the things that you're noticing where there seems to be life and energy? And also, as you're noticing your experience of the world, what are the challenges, the struggles, the places where there might be pain or suffering? And as you're noticing this sort of rich tapestry of life at the moment, what is it stirring up in you? How are you feeling in response to this world that you are living in, to these communities and places and experiences? And as you're sort of allowing these noticings, is there one area or experience, one part of the world that's sort of resonant somehow, that's catching your attention, that you might want to spend a little bit of time with specifically? I'm just going to leave a moment or so. You don't need to kind of push for this, but just have an open, receptive attitude, and trusting that something will come if something needs to come. It also might be that one isn't particularly resonating, but you might just choose something. An area of your life or the world to spend a little bit of concentrated time with. Once something has kind of emerged, or you've chosen something, maybe really kind of placing yourself in there imaginatively, noticing what exactly is going on there. Who are the people? What are the places? And how do you feel or experience life in the midst of that? And once you've got some degree of in touchness with that context, that experience, I wonder whether you might invite God, whatever God is for you, this mystery at the heart of things that we might name in 100,000 different ways, but maybe ask for God to sort of reveal God's self to you in that. It might be as a visual image, a form. It might be as a word, a line from poetry, and a movement. But just leaving a little bit of space to ask God to show God's self to you in that particular context and see what comes. How is God, or how is the sacred taking form in that context for you? And noticing how does that God act? What is that God like? What sort of characteristics does this God have? And then in relation to that context and in the presence of this particular God, what is it that you are desiring? What is it that you're really wanting? Remembering that the desire is one that helps you to remain lovingly engaged with reality. What are you desiring? How might you articulate that? Maybe another way of putting it, what are you longing for or needing from this God who has shown up? And for those of you who like writing things down or playing around with words, I'm sorry the screen is a bit smaller than I anticipated, but I've just got the formula from the O antiphon. O, insert image of or name for God. You who, put in the characteristic or description or action of God. And then come and inserting the need or desire or petition. So it might be that you want to write one of your own. It might be that you're just having a conversation with the God who's shown up, articulating something of what's stirring for you, or just sitting in the silence of it. And then beginning to draw this time to a close, draw those conversations to a close. And trusting that if something has stirred or begun, that it can be come back to at a later date. But in your own time, bringing yourself back into this room with this group of people, maybe flicking on your videos so that we know that you're back with us.